Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Louise Robbins, and I would like to introduce Lindsay Lemmer, running for Alder from District 3. As we begin, please tell our viewers a bit about how your educational, vocational, and civic experience has prepared you for your position and why you decided to run for Alder.
Sure. Louise, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the Dane County League of Women Voters and Madison City Channel for organizing this. Many of the decisions that directly impact us are made at the local level. So it is so important for folks to be engaged in this race and understand the differences between me and my opponent. As far as my background and how it fits in with being an Alder, I have extensive experience in advocacy at both the local level and at the state level as the president of the Wisconsin and Madison chapters of the National Organization for Women. I think that will help me be a great advocate and a strong voice for my district. I have a lot of experience collaborating with local leaders, actually working with the League of Women Voters on the Dane County Voter ID Coalition. I led the communications for the early part of that effort, working with local leaders and making sure that our community understands voter ID and gets registered to vote. I also have an MBA and extensive experience in strategy, and that would be very beneficial on the Common Council as we face increasingly difficult financial choices. And I have a background of being a strong communicator. I work in communications professionally, and to me, being exceptionally responsive to my district, making sure that they know what's happening at the city level, how it impacts them, how to make sure their voice is heard, and making sure that my voice is as reflective of their needs and concerns as possible. That's the most important part of being an Alder, and I believe I have the background and the experience to do that effectively. And for all of those reasons, I decided to run for Alder for my district.
Madison's efforts to address chronic homelessness have appeared to fall short, especially with regard to providing sufficient support systems for a housing-first approach. What ideas do you have that might create greater success for projects such as the one at Tree Lane?
So I think this feeds into our overall housing crisis. It's difficult for people to rent. It's increasingly difficult for folks to stay in their homes with increasing assessment values, and it's hard to buy a home in Madison. Our homeless population, regardless of Madison's best efforts, continues to grow, and we know that half of our homeless population is children, and the last estimate was we've got 2,400 homeless people, and 1,200 of that are children. So this is a crisis, and we need to prioritize it. I think we've got to take a multi-pronged approach, increasing access to affordable housing, market rate housing, and look at incentives that we can provide to property management companies to help them make the right choices to increase the number of folks that they are renting to.
The Madison Police Department has been faulted for not having appropriate policies and training around de-escalation and use of force, especially with regard to people of color. What is your perspective on whether any changes are needed in ways Madison police operate in our community?
I think that we need to be investing in training and resources for them, and we have to look at doing a few things differently. I think we need to leverage our Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative framework more and use it consistently across all of our decisions. And I think we need to look at some of the recommendations from the OIR report and work on making sure that more of them happen, particularly increased citizen oversight of our police, and making sure that they have effective performance management policies and performance reviews. I think all of those things will help make a difference, and we know that Madison and that Dane County have serious racial inequities, and we need to work hard to resolve them.
There is a perception that Madison's story is a tale of two cities, one in which people of color are less likely to experience success. What can be done to ensure that Madison is a community in which all people can thrive?
I think we need to look at ways to increase our inclusivity and make sure that everyone has good opportunities. And I think a lot of those would address other issues that we have in our city as well. So I want to make sure that we are prioritizing having good after-school programming for our youth, that we are supporting our community centers. In my district, we've got a great one, MSCR, making sure that they have the support that they need, and that we have quality professional development opportunities for youth in our community, and that we're connecting them to businesses in the area. And I think there are other things that we need to be doing that also have the benefit of reducing our inequities. So as Madison continues to grow, we know that we're projected to have 70,000 more people here by 2040. We need to invest in our transit. Having access to transit, being able to get to where you need to, is an accessibility and inclusivity issue. So I think that is going to help us reduce our inequities as well.
What issue have you identified as being of primary concern to the residents of your district, and how would you approach tackling it?
Public safety is a concern for many folks in my district, and I think we've got to look at a few different strategies to resolve it. So we need to make sure that we have strong, safe neighborhoods, that folks know their neighbors and know when something looks out of place. And I would support facilitating initiatives that help that to happen. We need to look at environmental issues that increase crime. So making sure that businesses have proper lighting, have cameras, those things are going to help us be safer. We do need to make sure that police have the resources that they need, and that we have continued positive communication with police, with our community, and with our neighborhood associations.
The relationship between the council and the mayor appears at times contentious. Is this a problem? And if so, how would you improve the relationship?
Yeah, I think, of course, we need to, express our differences in meetings and be respectful about them. I mean, we all have different points of view, and it's important to have that, a diversity in perspectives. But I think we need to address them respectfully. I am committed to doing that. I want to make sure that we keep disagreements respectful, and I aim to have a positive relationship with whomever the mayor is that gets elected.
What changes, if any, should be made in how the city approaches major projects such as Judge Doyle Square and the public market?
So for Judge Doyle Square, it seems to me it could have been seen far in advance how that was going to go. That the issues with the developer were a long time coming. So I think we need to have more accountability measures in place, and that we are staving off crises well before we get to the breaking point that we got to with Judge Doyle Square. And then with the public market, I think we just need to make sure that we are having, again, accountability measures in place, that we are attaching metrics to everything, so that as this project comes to fruition, it's appearing to be on target for being the tax revenue generator, so that the city can afford to do it, and that we can look at changing how we're doing things if it's not making its targets.
What council committees do you want to serve on, and why?
I would like to be on the task force for government restructure, because I've worked on large-scale plans like that, and I think I've got a lot of good experience that would help with that. And I know this is admittedly unlikely for a first-year Alder, but I think a lot of good can be done and a lot of input can be provided on the Plan Commission, and I think I could do a lot of good for my district on that commission.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Thank you. Well, first, thank you for listening, and thank you again to the Dane County League of Women Voters and Madison City Channel for providing this opportunity. I love being on the east side of Madison because of our strong sense of community, our high quality of life, our great parks and schools, and our hardworking, inclusive, and welcoming nature. We don't close our doors or our hearts to people who may seem different than us. That's not the Madison I know, and that's not the east side I know. We work hard, and we look out for each other. I will use my advocacy experience to be a strong voice for our community. My work as a communications strategist will help me be the strong, responsive communicator that our district needs and deserves. I'll work to make sure that we have a safe district, strong neighborhoods, and that everyone in our community has good opportunities to succeed. I'll prioritize making sure that we have quality services, that we are addressing Madison's housing crisis, and that we are making strategic infrastructure investments, such as in our transit. I'll work to expand our use of our Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative framework, as well as Madison's implicit bias trainings to help us address our racial inequities. And I'll hold us accountable to the city's ambitious carbon reduction goals and support programs to help Madisonians be more energy efficient and have access to green technology. And if I receive the honor of being your next Alder, I'll work to be an Alder for all of us, not just those of us with similar viewpoints. Make sure to vote on April 2nd. And I humbly ask that when you do, that you vote for me, Lindsay Lemmer, as your next District 3 Alder. Thank you.
I want to thank Lindsay Lemmer for speaking with us and the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. Please vote in this and every election. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.